Hello and welcome to the Black Dad Brand podcast. My name is Jamil Pugh and I'm your host. Here on the Black Dad Brand podcast, our main goal is to uplift Black fathers so that their families can thrive. And so today we're going to talk about reproductive health. And I'm with Jovanie Harris, who is our subject matter expert in reproductive health. And he's going to be constantly contributing to this platform, teaching us a lot about what we need to know as Black fathers for reproductive health. So, Jovanie, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got this expertise in reproductive health.
Getting into this field, is an interesting story within itself. But I've been working in this field for the last 8 years, working at Planned Parenthood. I give presentations to all different age groups. Age groups starting from like 5th to 6th grade level to middle school level to also high school level, and then even the college level, and then also training staff as well on how to talk about these sensitive topics to the individuals that they serve, whether it be youth or maybe even just teaching parents on how they can talk about this subject with their children.
Nice. And so today you're going to talk to us about postpartum care. And I think that's such an important topic for men to be aware of, to understand what their partners are going through, but what they also may be experiencing themselves as it relates to having a new child. And so making sure that there's good self-care going on, taking care of your partner, while also, doing what it takes to raise a healthy and thriving baby. So let's jump into your presentation and let's discuss some of the information you have to share with us. I think it's going to be great for our audience to really learn about what postpartum care really means and how you can be prepared for that process after your baby is born.
Okay. Cool. So I'll go ahead and get started. As Jamil mentioned, that we're going to talk a little bit about postpartum care today. Postpartum care. One of the main objectives that we will be covering are the following. Through this presentation, I'm hoping that everyone that's listening is going to be able to take away from this presentation. They're going to be able to learn what postpartum is. And also, there's some misconceptions about what postpartum is and what it isn't. So I'm happy to share that with you. Basics of caring for a newborn during postpartum, during that time period. And then the basics on how to care for your partner during the period of postpartum, and then also just the basics on how to care for yourself, because caring for yourself is ultra important at any stage, but particularly during this stage, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So for starters, there's postpartum confusion. A lot of times, folks think of postpartum and they think of postpartum depression. A lot of times our mind goes there because naturally, in society, particularly postpartum has been a subject that has been elevated. We've gotten a lot of information about it, and it's important, and it is a facet of postpartum. But really what postpartum is it's just simply means following childbirth or the birth of a young. So it's the period of time following childbirth, when, there's a lot of things going on. It's a very important time period where the mother is regaining her strength. Different problems could arise during that time period in terms of the baby and the health, and also even the healing process for the mother. It's important for a father to really understand what postpartum is, and this is an important period of time where you might want to offer some support and know how to offer that support to a mother during this time. So let's see here. So postpartum, as we discussed, is that period, after childbirth. But what is that period exactly? Well, the postpartum period, it usually refers to that period that's the first 6 weeks following childbirth. Okay. And once again, a lot of things are happening right now, particularly hormone levels are changing. Hormone levels are starting to, go back to normal, so to speak. There's breastfeeding that's going on during that time. There's a lot of different body changes that's going on during that time. The uterus size is changing. The uterus size is, going back to its, pre-pregnancy state, so to speak. So there's a lot of different changes during this time. And, this can be a time where a new mother really needs a support or a helping hand. So now that we've established what postpartum is, it's that period, following childbirth. One of the most important things that you're going to be, worried about during that time is how to care for a newborn. It's important to understand certain things that are going on that can help you to be able to care for the newborn. The first thing is the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord, it's a common site of infection. In order to prevent that infection, it's important to keep it clean, also keeping it dry as well, so it can help it to heal. Also sometimes even 70% alcohol can also work for drying an area if it particularly stays moist. It's also important to keep the diaper from covering over the umbilical cord. Sometimes, with a really newborn, they're so small, and the diapers that they have for you, depending on which ones that you're using, hopefully using the newborns, but that could actually, cover over the umbilical cord. So you want to kind of fold that back to make sure that you're, so air can get on the umbilical cord and it can help it to stay dry. Bath time is a really important time for a newborn. There's in practice, bathing a newborn should take place about 3 times a week, or until they start to get a little bit more mobile, then it can, pick up a little bit more. You can use a plastic tub, or even sometimes individuals use like a sink. Sometimes a sink can be useful, provided that it's, doesn't have a lot of distractions around it or anything that's, unsafe for the newborn to be around. But sometimes it can be helpful to standing up, so that you're not bending down, because, bathing a newborn in like a tub can be really hard on your back. So depending on, a person's mobility, and you also want to make sure that you're choosing a time when the newborn is alert. When they're alert, the process goes a little bit better. They're alert, so you're able to bond with the child. The newborns sleep a lot, so when they are up, this is a good time to engage with them. And bath time provides that opportunity, so it's good bonding. And then it's also really important to understand that you want to start with the face, right? You want to start with the face and then work your way down. Obviously, because once you get to the more, dirtier parts, especially in a diaper, the first poop that you're going to be, that the child is going to be having is meconium. It's real icky and, sticky, and, and so, you're going to have an area that's really dirty. So you want to make sure that you're not wiping the face after you're exposing the washcloth to that area. As we're talking about cleanliness is very important when it comes to a newborn. A lot of folks are really, aware of this already, but washing your hands thoroughly before you're handling a newborn is pretty standard. Making sure washing and ironing newborns' clothes, particularly around a newborn. When you have a newborn child, you're going to have lots of gifts people are going to give you. People are going to give you all these different clothing options, and you want to make sure that you definitely wash all those things. There's even been documentaries on this that clothes that are purchased from the store, have lots of bacteria on them. You want to make sure that the house is clean. This can be pretty challenging if you have other children in the home, but do the best you can on keeping the house clean. And also, breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is very, very helpful in, providing a little bit more immunization for a child, and basically that added protection, and being supportive during the breastfeeding process can be, something that's very appreciated. We're going to talk a little bit more about breastfeeding and some of the things that you can do to support. But one of those things you can do is bringing water, bringing lots of water to make sure that the mother is hydrated, because breastfeeding can take a toll on the person's hydration. And then obviously, and this goes without saying, but if a person's sick, tell them don't come over. They shouldn't be handling a child. And if you have somebody that's sick in the house, you should definitely make sure that they're not handling a newborn. When it comes to sleeping, sleeping is something that the newborn is going to be doing a lot. And hopefully, if you are strategic enough, hopefully you're doing it a little bit as well, because you're going to need a little bit of sleep during this time. But sleeping takes place for a newborn in very short time periods for the first week or two. When it comes to sleeping, to help a newborn be a little bit more comfortable, it can be helpful to swaddle them. Swaddling is, when you're kind of wrapping them up like a burrito. It's typically what the doctor or the nurse will probably swaddle the child in the hospital in front of you. And if you're unaware of how to swaddle, you can either Google it, or, you can actually ask the nurse for some tips as well. Remember, for a newborn, that days and nights can get confusing. In order to reduce the chances that days and nights are getting confusing, it's really, important to really engage with a newborn, talking with them, singing with them, laughing with them, just playing with them, doing funny faces, whatever it is during the days, to help them understand the difference between days and nights, obviously. And then obviously at nights, there's going to be a lot of, bonding. It's going to be a lot of, cuddling with them, and, just making sure, that, they go back to sleep, or that they're just comfortable during those times. When it comes to, when it comes to the days and nights, limiting the naps can be something that can also be done to, if you notice that that's starting to become a problem, limiting the naps can help to also help to reduce the chances that a newborn is confused between day or night.
I think I want to jump in real quick. I wanted to just say, when you talked about the days and nights, one of the things that I found very helpful to kind of help my child, adjust, is getting blackout curtains. And so being able to really make sure the room is dark, and, they understand that it's sleep time. And so, investing in some cheap, blackout curtains, I think would do well for parents trying to, make sure that the kid takes those naps, because those naps equal breaks for you, time for you to have personal time, to eat, or to just kind of unwind. So you really do want to, kind of invest in things that allow you to, take your breaks and recharge, because, newborns are, a lot of work. They're fun. I mean, my son is 7 months right now, and so I'm kind of going through a lot of these different things and helping him to, get adjusted to a schedule. But I just found that blackout curtains were a great help for us.
Absolutely. Blackout curtains can be helpful. And then also, along those lines, making sure that when it's the daytime, that you're not blacking it out, that you're not doing other things that are kind of similar to that. Like, for instance, some people tend to tell everybody to shh and be quiet, when the baby's sleeping during the day. But, while maybe you don't want to yell or have really loud noises, but you definitely don't want to, have the whole house quiet, because, you want them to understand that, this is this is the daytime, this is what the daytime feels like a little bit. And giving them that little bit of taste kind of helps them to distinguish between day and night, because obviously they're not going to hear a lot of that talking at nighttime. So that's a really good point. In addition to that, sleeping, a lot of times the baby is sleeping. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a post-feeding routine, after the baby is fed. What are you doing? Is it, are you feeding them and you're playing with them a little bit and then rocking them to sleep? Whatever it is, you want to kind of keep a routine, because that could be helpful. And also just for the baby and their sleeping schedule. When it comes to do nots, you definitely don't want to co-sleep. Co-sleeping is when, you're like sleeping with a newborn in the same bed. Sometimes, folks might do this to bond with their child. You'll even, have sometimes where individuals will get a little bit comfortable and, mothers sometimes even do this, like they're breastfeeding their child and, maybe laying on the side and breastfeeding the child. But you just want to be really careful about co-sleeping. Using bassinets, can be really helpful because they're right on the side of the bed. Or, these kind of things can help to reduce, death, related, accidents. This is a common thing when it comes to newborn. It's called SIDS. And so it's really something to really be mindful of, because obviously no one wants that to happen.
And so SID stands for sudden infant.
Say it again.
Right. SID stands for sudden infant death, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I just want to
syndrome.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Syndrome. Sorry. Also, I just want to remind our guests, here in Sacramento County, there is the Black Child Legacy campaign, which talks about the 4 leading causes of African-American child death. And one of those is sleep-related death. So if you want to learn more about the best ways to put your child to sleep, the safest ways, please visit blackchildlegacy.org. Search the information. There's a whole host of resources to tell you how to safely sleep your baby so that you aren't putting yourself in position, because again, it's one of the 4 leading causes of African-American child death within Sacramento County. So please pay attention to that, do your research, find out what's going on, and be very careful with your baby.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes folks, when they're trying to put a newborn to sleep, they might even use tools like using white noise machines or something like that. This can be helpful as well. White noise is actually the sound that babies are used to when they are inside the womb. White noise can be really helpful and kind of, I know we use it a lot. It was helpful for both of our children. So. And then also, babies love to really be attached. I know there's the skin to skin contact, but babies love to be with you, even if you're cleaning the house, even if you are, running errands or in the grocery store or whatnot, wearing a baby sleeper, wearing the baby or, in a little sling or like a carrier. Can be very, very useful. Free your hands up to be able to work from home or, send out some emails or, cook some food for yourself because, you might need some, just some hands to be able to take care of yourself, or also, be able to allow like the mother to sleep while you take the baby and while you're able to kind of still do things around the house and still be busy. Maybe you're, trying to do some laundry, or maybe you're trying to cook a meal for later. This can be very helpful in that. So now we're going to move on to feeding a child. Obviously, feeding a newborn is very, very important. A lot of times folks will have to make a choice. There's more than one way to feed a newborn. Oftentimes, what doctors will recommend is that if you can, to start with breastfeeding. There's, things that are in your insurance that can help you to get access to, or help the newborn to get access. I mean, not the newborn, but the new mother to get access to like breastfeeding classes, lactation classes, just support in general on that whole process, because it can be frustrating. I know, my wife, had trouble at first, and I could see and I can sense the frustration on her through that time period. So breastfeeding is important, and the food that a mother is eating and the antibodies that a mother has can be transferred to the child through that breast milk. And so this can give the baby added protection. And so in addition to that, that's not the only way to feed a child, though, as well. Some families might, for several different reasons, it may not have anything to do with the mother and whether she can produce milk or enough milk. It might be for another reason, but you might want to choose some formula. Formula can be beneficial as well. And, if you're using formula or if you're using breast milk, ultimately what matters is that the child is getting fed. And you definitely don't want to overfeed. Overfeeding can look different ways, you don't want to, like sometimes when a baby is spitting up, that could be a sign that they are, they're getting fed a little bit too much. It can be a little tricky sometimes to tell when that point is, right? Because a baby only knows to cry and to let you know what they want. And they don't know what's too much. So they might be asking for more milk or more something, right? And so sometimes you might want to, instead of supplying more milk when you know that the child has been fed adequately, sometimes you might want to dial it back and maybe start soothing, maybe start, with a pacifier to provide a little bit of that, calm. And maybe, rocking the baby or maybe getting up and changing a different scenery and something like that. Maybe that can help, kind of remind the baby that they're not hungry. Jamil, you got a question?
Yeah. So I was going to say, I think oftentimes that we're trying to learn our babies and read them and check the different cues and stuff like that. We kind of can misread them and think that they're hungry. Like right now, my son is teething. And so I know that he cries and he needs like some attention. He wants to be held. And so you could misread that to think, oh, he's hungry, when really he just needs a toy to kind of help soothe his teeth because his gums are hurting, or maybe giving him, what we do is like we put a strawberry inside one of these little bite toys. And so he's getting, a little bit of taste, but he's also kind of soothing his gums and not overfeeding him, because it is hard as you're learning your baby and building that relationship and understanding what's a hungry cry and what's I need some soothing support cry. And so I always used to, admire people who understood their babies that way. And now that I have my own, it's becoming much more clear what the child wants and needs at that time. So when we talk about not overfeeding, it's really you learning your baby and understanding how they react when they're trying to communicate with you.
Absolutely. They say while you can't understand, a baby's cry, when it's your baby, you start to understand what cry is what, and it's true. There are baby whisperers out there, and you eventually become one as you're, as you're getting a little bit more experience. Now we're going to move into a little bit of partner care. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can care for our partner during this time. And we're going to first start with a healthy diet. It's really important to have a healthy diet. Protein is very important during this time period where, it's postpartum, right? This is after pregnancy. This is, a woman is regaining their strength. A lot of things are happening during this time. They might be breastfeeding. Breastfeeding takes a lot of energy out of you. Breastfeeding, you're not just feeding yourself. A new mom now has to feed herself, and you still have to, be able to, feed yourself and to be able to kind of like provide those nutrients to a newborn. So protein foods are really important. If you might find yourself in a situation where you're the cook, or if you aren't already, or you're the person, if you don't cook and cooking is not your thing, you might find yourself in a situation where you're the person that's going to be going to go pick up you're doing the pickups, for, the food, maybe you're the one that calls in the order and goes to go pick it up and goes to make those runs, whatever the case may be. But as you're choosing the foods, it's important to choose certain foods that are going to be very helpful to the new mom. And trust me, they will have cravings, especially cravings that they could not satisfy when they were pregnant. But you want to try foods that are high in protein, high in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and fats. But then also, most importantly, water. Water is really important during this time. As I said earlier, particularly if they're breastfeeding. And just that could be just extremely helpful and thoughtful. Just refilling their water, just like refilling their water and bringing it to them. Or as you see them sitting down to feed the child, give them a glass of water. You know what I mean? Like, just having that glass of water can help them to stay hydrated during that process, because it will take a toll on them, as time progresses. Other ways that we can support new mothers is ask questions. Ask questions and follow up conversations, around newborn care and just around your feelings, right after pregnancy takes place, can be difficult sometimes. And sometimes two partners aren't actually talking about the feelings and how they're feeling. They're checking in with each other. This can be a really good time to ask questions. Ask about how she's feeling, not just about how she's feeling physically, but how she's feeling mentally. You know what I mean? This could be a time where she's not getting much sleep. You're not getting much sleep, but you're a team. You're working together. And so you're going to have to find ways to check in with each other and, to find ways to have that intel so what support is needed and when. It also might be helpful to suggest an outing. You're going to spend a lot of time at the house taking care of the new child. Just getting out the house can be helpful. And it might need to be you being the person that's leading the charge on this, but at the same time, you want to follow her lead because she's the one that's healing. She's, she might not feel up to it, but she might also need a change of scenery. And so some things that you might want to do, if you can do them, is taking a walk around the neighborhood, just taking a walk, just getting some, sunlight on yourself, just that could be helpful. Just getting some new scenery, but walk slow, let her take the lead, be sensitive to the fact that this is her recovery. And this can be just really helpful. Also offer to do specific tasks. Oftentimes Jamil, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I just wanted to, kind of just mention the fact that there's probably a lot of fathers out there who work very demanding jobs. And so maybe they're working nights or they're working late evenings or their job just has them traveling a lot. And I just want to say to those fathers, like, now that you've kind of gone through this presentation with Jovanie, you kind of learned about the process in which your partner is going through. Maybe you can find other ways to rally the support that your partner needs. It may not come from you directly, but maybe you can do something to bring your partner's parent around, or to talk with your partner's friends and see what other support's available to help her through this process, so that she does have a strong mental health, or she maintains strong mental health as she's going through this process of recovery. So it's just being, like you say, mindful of what she's going through, how she's recovering, how long it takes, some of the things that you can do to support her. And I think you're going to talk about here when you talk about be her postpartum advocate, right? So who else could step in for you if you can't, be there to take the baby to take naps, or to ensure that the grocery orders are taken care of, or somebody who can bring over food. And I think when we had our first baby, that was around when COVID happened. And one of the things I like, and I don't know if it was COVID related or not, but a lot of the grocery stores started doing this like drive up order. And it became easy for my wife to kind of like put together like what we need for the house and then say, okay, you go do the pickup, right? Because she knows if she sends me into the grocery store, it's going to be 3 hours for me looking for everything in there because I'm just not familiar. It's just not my thing. But having, just looking at what other ways can you simplify, your life so that you can spend that extra time, you can be extra supportive, and you can lighten the load of what your partner is going through, specifically as they are tending to a new life, right?
Absolutely. You kind of put the words in my mouth because, we're definitely going to touch on that a little bit later. Offering to do specific tasks as well, you just touched on that. But not just the grocery store stuff, but cleaning the house, doing the laundry, you mentioned it, rocking the baby to sleep or, taking the baby so that she can get some sleep. All these things are really important. They mean a lot. Absolutely. They can kind of reduce the chances that the new mom feels overwhelmed during this process, which, is a time period where she'll likely feel that at one point or another, right?
Right.
Scheduling phone calls and scheduling like phone calls can be really important because, like I said, you may not be taking visitors, you may or may not, right? But you might also want to schedule some, visits as well, and we'll touch on that as well. But phone calls is really important. You might have people that you want to talk to that live a little bit further out. They can't necessarily see you, or you may see them. You can see them, but because they live within your proximity, but you're trying to limit the visitors right now. So just scheduling a phone call, FaceTime can be very helpful. Just seeing somebody's face, just interacting with people. This can all put a smile on somebody's face, and can also just reduce the chances that you feel so isolated, right? Parents, sharing your stories and struggles is really important. It just kind of goes back into communication and asking questions and checking in with each other. But, this is critical. This is both parents are going through an experience. I know myself, I wish I would have done a better job of checking in and sharing my stories and checking in about where I'm at and, checking in with my wife as far as where she's at. So we can really be on the same page, because it's just, you're going through a common experience, but it's different, you're both becoming parents, but the experiences that you're experiencing are different. And a lot of times as fathers, we feel the sense that we've got to be the person taking care of, someone else. Like right now, we've centered a lot of the conversation for the new mom and, for good reason, but a lot of times we do that and we don't want to do that at the expense of, being able to share our experience, being able to, connect with someone, as far as what we're going through. Right. Because, we need love too. Right. You know what I'm saying? We need support as well. Being a postpartum advocate, if she needs to go to an appointment, which she will have appointments that she needs to go to, go with her, offer to, go with her so that, with the baby so that you can kind of take the baby off her hands, when that's, when needed. Right. Also just unloading the car, getting the stuff out the car, she may be going to, the delivery, but may not want to go get the car seat out the car and all this other stuff. Right. So that, just being there and being present can be a benefit. And just to, just show that you're supportive. Right. And then also make sure you set up some visits when you start to accept, visitors. but also make sure that you set time limits on those visits, right? It's important. I know I learned this a lot, but your schedule just changes completely when you have a child. How you manage your day is required to change. And when someone comes and visits you and takes up a huge chunk of your day, now that's a huge chunk of your day where it might have thrown your whole rhythm off. It might, now the baby, maybe not didn't nap the way that they were supposed to nap. Now they're keeping you up at night, right? They say sleep when the babies sleep, but if people are over and you can't sleep, right? Then now you're not getting sleep, right? So you want to make sure that these visits are short and sweet, and also try to I know a lot of folks are taught this, but a lot of folks don't abide by this, I guess you can say. But even if you got to drop some hints, people should understand. They bring some food, you know what I mean? Bring some food over, bring us a meal, or come over, change a diaper, hold the baby, you know what I mean? Just give folks a break, maybe do a load of laundry if you're that close with them, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe if the family or something like that, that can be really helpful. I know, my mother-in-law, and my father-in-law, they would come and they would like tag team, and they would like do the dishes and the laundry, and they would just kind of like just take care of stuff that nobody wants to do. You know what I mean? And just lighten the load. And I know that was really helpful for us. So
one of the things that we had happen when we had our kids was my wife's friends kind of organized like a food train, I guess they would call it. And essentially you're organizing your friends to bring you food. Maybe it's this person this week, or this person the next week, or this person that day. And that way you constantly have food come to your house. You're not having to prepare it. And so I remember your wife coming by and bringing us a big pot of spaghetti and just kind of making sure that we had things to eat. And it just, that really helps. But like you said, because it's not just the mother who's going through postpartum, the father is experiencing things too. And so lightening his load as he's kind of, really trying to, be there for his partner and his new child, especially if you're a first time father. I thought, because I've been working in birth work for so long, or, reading all this stuff, that I was prepared for, but it is completely different when you're in it and you're learning on the go. And so anything that folks can do. And then when you're talking to people, like you said, when people have a visit, don't feel shy about asking them to bring something, to do something for you, or to be helpful in some way. Because like I said, this is your time to take advantage of the support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are some really good points, man. And I mean, it's just, ultimately it's about, making sure that folks aren't just coming over and just throwing your whole thing off, just throwing everything off for you, just that you still got a parent now, you mentioned one thing about, lightening the load for the new father, right? And so like when you bring food, it doesn't just lighten the load for the mom, right? It lightens the load for the dad. And, you made me think of something. It's like this, you're going through this huge transition, right? And if you're a person who's trying to be supportive of the new mom, you're trying to lighten the load. You're trying to do things. And, I know that all dads have, different skill sets or whatnot, you know what I mean? But if you're a dad who you didn't do a lot of laundry, you didn't do a lot of cooking, you know what I mean? You're scrambling to try to support your family, and you're doing things that you're unfamiliar with, you're doing things that are new to you. And this is a transition, this is quite, this can be a stress. You want to do it well. You don't want to let your family down. And so, we need our load lightened as well. You know what I'm saying? So, that's
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And tell your friends, don't
right,
ease up on the second child, because it's
let's move on to
twice as
self-care,
hard
though.
when you have
Let's
to.
talk about dads. Let's talk about self-care. We're talking about how dads has to look out for themselves as well. We gotta, be supported as well while we're giving support. You know what I mean? One of the things that's really important is to create a new normal. In some ways, sometimes you can get caught up because the pregnancy is like, it's so long, but it seems so fast, And so, it's like, it's a long period of time, but you move through it pretty rapidly, and all of a sudden, boom, the baby's here. But sometimes through that process, you can think like, man, I can't wait till the baby comes so we can get back. My wife will, she'll get her body back, blah, blah, blah. It's actually completely different now. And that old normal that you had, that's not normal no more. Now you got to create a whole new normal, and this can be quite a transition. But you have to change your mindset during this time, and you have to create that new normal and be aware that things are changing, like the amount of attention that you're getting. You're not going to be getting all the attention that you maybe used to get, right? And so, you're going to have to get used to that. And you're going to have to create that new normal. Get used to the lack of sleep. You're going to be sleep deprived. You're going to have moments where you're up at night and you don't want to be. There's going to be moments where you're up at night and there's really nothing you can do. The baby doesn't want you. Baby wants mom. And you're just there, and you could either sleep. Wouldn't suggest doing that. Or you can get up, and you can be up with the mom. And everybody has different work schedules and different arrangements and things like that, obviously. But, you might feel compelled to want to get up and be supportive of your partner. Some of the things that you can do, though, is like getting up in the middle of the night. And even though the baby doesn't necessarily want you, but getting up and getting the baby and bringing the baby to mom. This can be helpful, because mom is sleep deprived too. And, mom doesn't want to get up, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to get up just to sit right back down with the baby because they're going to breastfeed by just propping up if you're with someone who's breastfeeding and they just prop up some pillows in the bed, right? And that's, they're breastfeeding in the middle of the night. Then bring the baby to them, that way, and some water to them. That way they're hydrated, throughout the night. Things like that can be really helpful. You want to keep an eye on a new mother's mood as well. I know commenting about keeping an eye on a woman's mood can be a little bit, that could be, you tread, you tread lightly, but this is actually really important. This is a scientific fact. There's a lot of hormones going on right now. There is postpartum during this postpartum period. That's why a lot of people recognize postpartum as postpartum depression. It's going to be a lot of mood changes. Maybe you might see irritability. You might see crying. You know what I mean? This is coming from a lot of different places. It might be lack of sleep. It might be just being overwhelmed. A lot of things are going on right now. So you want to keep an eye on a mother's mood. Postpartum depression is real. If you notice that a person, that you're with is going through really severe mood changes, don't hesitate to go and talk to a professional and check in. It might be completely normal and it's just regular and nothing to be worried about. But then there also might be something there that you might want to get some added support for. Remember, there's a lot of changes going on right now. And so being overwhelmed is perfectly normal because you just went from a man to a father, and she just went from a woman to a mother, and that's in the context of if this was the first child, obviously. You want to be good to yourself. Self-care is really important. You might have to have some time that you do things that you enjoy doing, you might have to step out the house, to go and, do something that you enjoy doing, do some self-care, maybe go to the gym or something like that. Or, that this is really important. Be good to yourself. Remember that in order for you to be a good support system for for the new mom, you yourself. And then also, we've been talking about it all day, but be good to her. Be good to her by, being willing to step in and fill in those gaps. Because you're gonna find yourself in positions that you may not have thought that you were going to be in, or that you may not be comfortable in, but you're gonna have to step up during this time. Divide and conquer. Share, the caring of the baby, right? Don't just leave it all on her, to do the bathing, to do the diaper changing, to do the cooking or the caring. You might have other young ones in the house, you know what I mean? So divide and conquer. If you need to, take the other kid or the other kids, to go on an outing, you know what I'm saying? Just to get them out the house, just to make the house quieter, just to, whatever it is that you might need to be able to do to support, the new mom. This is really important during this time. And then fellas, be patient with sex, right? Be patient with sex. You might want to, get after it really early, right? You might be waiting for that green light from the doctor. And it's on, right? Plus you've been waiting, maybe for a longer period than that, and you're like, oh, it's going down, but pump your brakes a little bit, and remind yourself on her, because, newsflash, she might not be feeling too sexy right now, she might not be feeling too confident right now, in her body, there's a lot of things going on right now, she's breastfeeding, body changes, things like that. Also think about it like this too. I know, I was talking to my wife about this, it's like, think about if all day long you're being tugged on and pulled on, right, by a newborn, and if you have other kids, it might be tugged on and pulled on by other kids too, right? Sometimes a person might just not want to be touched. You know what I mean? Like they just been tugged on and pulled on all day. They just don't want to be touched. You know what I mean? They just are happy to just be able to just be, so I know this can be a challenge to hear to folks out there, but be patient with sex and be patient with her. And then obviously when it is, when you do get that green light, when it is that time, remember, go slow, be patient. And lubricant is your friend. And lastly, the last thing that I would share with you is to communicate. Communicate is one of the big things that any, successful couple will probably tell you is a really important attribute in a relationship, but it's also really important in parenting. So I really encourage everyone out there who's listening to this podcast, and who's hearing this right now to communicate with your partner, communicate your ups, communicate your downs, communicate where you're at, communicate, the different thoughts and, different changes of perspectives and things like that you're going through. This can all be help to, make the parenting process a much more joyful process. And also, it can also help you just reflect and, ultimately just develop, into becoming the best parent that you can be. So I just want to thank you all for listening to me talk for a while. And, I know, Jamel, you want to jump in there and we can, talk about this a little bit more.
Well, that was a really amazing presentation, Jovanie. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think there's so much information that us Black fathers got from your presentation in terms of the self-care, taking care of your partner, being an advocate, understanding the cleanliness and working with the baby as they're just coming into this world. But I also wanted to, as we were talking about postpartum care, I wanted to briefly share a link and let everyone know that there's a book that I helped co-produce called Understanding Postpartum Depression and Postpartum Coping Skills. It's on Amazon. Very cheap, great information. Take a look at it. I think it might be helpful for yourself and or for your partner to really understand what's going on in that 6-week process of the postpartum period. So again, check it out on Amazon, Understanding Postpartum Depression and Postpartum Coping Skills. We'd love for you to check out that book. But also, folks, just make sure to follow us on social media. You'll be alerted of all the new things that we have available for you on our website, our YouTube channel, our podcast will be on all the major platforms. That's Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio. So there's going to be more and more content available. So follow us again, Black Dad Brand. So good to see you guys. See you in the next episode. Bye.